Hello and welcome to PocketGamer.biz's Monetizer. We're just going to have a quick look at Bethesda's Fallout Shelter, but before we look at the game itself, we're just going to look at our Monetizer graphs. So looks kind of pretty, doesn't it? But let's do a quick explanation of what it is and compare Fallout Shelter to some other games. So these are just basically some measurements that we take from all the games that we study. They're broken down into, you can kind of see, we'll sort of see that there's 4 different kind of colours on there. So starting in this corner, this is what we kind of look at our kind of efficiency, or the idea is it's kind of code efficiency, some idea of efficiency. And on this line here is the load time. So this is in seconds and averaged over a few loads. So Fallout Shelter takes about 70 seconds to load, which is quite a long time for what is a fairly easy game. And it's actually one of these games where it loads kind of a loading screen, and then you have to tap again to load further. So that kind of like makes it longer, but equally, it's kind of a cunning way of making you think maybe it's not as long as it first appears. This graph here is this line here, sorry, is the size on device. So I'm using iPad 3, and it's about 700 megabytes. So it's a fairly large game as well, which is again quite surprising because it's not a 3D game; it's a fairly simple 2D game. This line here is one we call bloat, and bloat is compares what the App Store size is given as. In this case, it's just under 200 megabytes, and so it almost goes up to 700. So you get a bloat of 3.6, almost 4. So here we see quite a big area, and that suggests that the game Fallout Shelter is not a particularly well engineered game. This area here, the pink one, we can't actually measure Fallout Shelter in this one. So this line here is called reciprocity, and reciprocity is how much kind of hard currency the game gives you, measured in dollars. And the reason we can't do this for Fallout Shelter is Fallout Shelter has a hard currency, caps, but you can't buy them directly. So you buy lunchboxes which have caps and other things in them. If you bought enough lunchboxes, you could kind of work out a rough dollar to caps measurement. But it's quite hard to do, potentially be quite expensive, so we haven't done that. So we haven't got any idea about reciprocity. And this one here is called the discount currency ratio, and this is 2. And this is how much compared to the cheapest in-app purchase compared to the most expensive in-app purchase, how much hard currency extra you get, kind of thing. We can't measure this directly, but in this case, when you buy things, you don't buy the caps, the hard currency, you buy lunchboxes. If you spend $20, which is the most expensive in-app purchase, you get twice as much as if you spend $1, the cheapest one. So that's what we have a discount currency ratio of 2, which is a bad average, not bad. And coming on to this blue thing. This blue thing is an idea of the download. So this graph here is kind of basically a ratio of how many countries the game has gone top 10, top 100 downloads, and this line here is how it's done in the top grossing charts, and this basically here is a ratio of the 2. So we can see here it's actually quite, so 1 is obviously the most you can get in terms of this being a ratio. So Fallout Shelter is very close on iPhone, it's about 0.5, I think 0.4, and on iPad it's 0.7, so very high downloads. That's what we expect, we kind of know that. But the interesting thing is sometimes you get very high downloads, often that doesn't pay through to top grossing. With Fallout Shelter it does, so you can see this kind of crosshatch area is kind of an idea of where we kind of see a successful game would be in this crosshatch area. So clearly we can see Fallout Shelter is in the successful game area. That's no surprise to everyone knows Fallout Shelter's been successful. This ratio 1 is trying to get an idea of how well downloads have been monetized. In this case, kind of fairly well, really. Not brilliantly, but fairly well. And this kind of little orange one here, this is the most interesting perhaps. So this is us measuring the in-app purchase economy, as we call it. So this is how many bands of purchases there are. There's only 4 different purchases you can, 4 different purchases you can do in Fallout Shelter. And what's interesting is the cheapest one is $1, which is pretty cheap. Most games now have $5. And the most expensive, even more surprisingly, is $20. Which is here, and then this one's the average, under 10. So the average is $9 for an in-app purchase. This is very tiny, and what's particularly interesting is this is very small to generate this large kind of revenue. In the sense of this kind of level, you'd kind of think they'd be losing some money because most games will have $100 as the largest in-app purchase. So we can compare this. This is Fallout Shelter, so you can kind of get a rough idea of that. But let's quickly compare it with some other games. So this is Kabam's Marvel Contest of Champions. So we can see here, I mean, these are all pretty successful games we're looking at. So again, we're kind of seeing quite a large blue area here, fairly successful game. Probably, I mean, this game seems to be doing tens of millions of dollars a month. So if we kind of see this green area here, it's a bit smaller. So it's on device, it's about 500 megabytes, and the bloat's only kind of 1.7. So we can see kind of the different green area there. You can see we've got a bit of reciprocity here, so you get about $2 worth, just under $2 of hard currency. But the discount currency ratio is much smaller, so it's a 1.15 compared to 2 for Fallout Shelter. But the most interesting difference, obviously, you can see this massive orange area. So this is what we see in most games. You have a minimum in-app purchase of $5. You have a maximum of $100. So this is 5 bands, that's $5, and then you get an average of around about 35. So I think it's like actually $39. So just comparing the two again, you know, you can just see that's the big difference. And a quick look again. So this is Boom Beach from Supercell. So the difference here, I guess, another big area here. We're going up to $100. Successful here. Reciprocity is again, but that's about the same actually as Kabam's Marvel game. So getting about $2 of currency. And your discount currency ratio is about 1.4. But what's really interesting with Boom Beach is very, very tightly designed, very well designed, well engineered. So it's only 100 megabytes to download. It's only 135 megabytes on device. So very tiny bloat. That's the difference. So you see these two big differences here and here. So that's just, these graphs just give us an idea of how to kind of analyse the games. Not particularly, we can't analyse the game and from these areas and say how it's going to be successful. It's not that kind of predictive thing, but that is kind of roughly how we use them. Let's quickly go in and have a quick look. So let's start up Fallout Shelter. Okay, let's get that in the middle. Switch that off. Okay, so we can see it's loading. Put some volume on. And we can see, as we kind of discussed, this loading screen is quite nice, quite ornate, but it does take a long time. And I think this is partly because it's quite a big game. So this is the first thing. So we've loaded this, and I have to enter the vault. We're processing this again, so we're waiting, and please stand by. So in a sense, the kind of interesting thing about Fallout Shelter is it's been successful despite these kind of what would be traditionally seen as obstacles. You know, you want people to get in the game pretty quickly in general, particularly a game like Fallout Shelter where you're probably not spending a lot of time in the game. It's quite a quick in and out. You're going into it many times a day, really, to check on your resources. So okay, we're going to come on. We're standing by. I guess this is a slightly older device. This is an iPad 3. This is the minimum spec it will run on, so presumably it will run fairly fast on iPad Air 2s, but people are playing on these things. So here's this is a pretty pathetic shelter, but we get an idea about what's going on here. So this is my shelter. This is my shelter. The guys are underground. See I haven't been playing this very much. 10% F. I'm a failure. All my guys in here are very unhappy. Yeah. So I'm going to collect some resources. You can see here. Kind of different type of, it's not resource in the same way it is for other games, so but you're kind of supposed to keep your meters high into they shouldn't be in the red, they should be in the green, to keep my inhabitants happy. Let me collect some of those and just level some of these guys up. I've got some some caps. So this is I've got 19 people in here. They're very unhappy. But let's quickly well, this is the different things I can build. So let's say I can build a science lab. Let's stick it down there. So it's used up my caps. So the interesting thing here is caps. There's only currency is caps, and caps are used for everything. And you don't really earn a lot of caps, to be honest. I think this is where the monetization is quite clever. That you do really need caps if you want to play this game a lot. You do need to spend money really, because it's quite hard to grind out. But I think particularly in the early stages where I am, because you kind of get a bit stuck. But anyway, so we go here, and I haven't got any lunch boxes. So you can see here, this is obviously in UK pounds. So there's 4 different ones I can buy. For the first one, it says $1. $1 I get 1 lunchbox. For the $5 I get 5 lunchboxes. For the $10 I get 15, and for the $20 I get 40. So you can see there's different ratios. So this is 50% off. That's where our ratio 2 comes from. And you see I haven't got any only have to buy them. And so that's yeah, that's really the interesting thing. So I'm still collecting some caps here, but not really got enough to do anything. So that's just a quick look at Fallout Shelter. Quite, it's kind of different to other games. There's no multiplayer in here. It's a very singular type of game. I mean, there's a bit more to do than I've been doing, but you're basically just building a shelter and leveling the guys up. And you can send people out into the wilderness to try and track stuff down. And if you have a nice shelter, if you have higher than 10%, people will come and join your shelter. But yeah. So there we go. That was a quick look at Fallout Shelter and a quick look at its monetization.